Tonight, Winera employees are on the edge after redundancy letters are issued by the company. The Prime Minister says a new regional force will be established to fight crime.
So if we were to visualize that regional entity, it would be like the FBI or M5 that would be managing security.
And the Minister for Culture says a review of the Jazz Festival will consider the reintroduction of events like jazz on the square. We have the details of these stories and more coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovelace and Amy Joseph.
Good night. It is Monday, the 6th of May, 2019. Welcome to the Hot 7 Nightly News. We're on Flow, channel 117, also being simulcast on Kiss FM 105.5 and 105.9. You can also watch on our free mobile app. Just search for Caribbean Hot FM in the Play Store. I'm Lovely Saint Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. Employees of Winera say they want answers and are not going down without a fight in light of staff cuts that are being implemented within the company. The employees' representative, the National Workers Union, met for a strategic meeting with Caribbean directors and management of the company. Employee Natalie Blanchard says the regular redundancies are not the answer. She hopes to see action to get the company on solid footing. She says employees have even put forward ideas to help save their jobs.
People don't even know that we exist, and they still associate Winera with banana cartoons. And I'm sure you're not aware, out of the 100% of our sales, only 20-25% is bananas. Because bananas now, they use the plastic crates, so we don't sell as much banana boxes as before. For us is the commercial box. So you would look at the brewery box, distillery, Domino's. So it's not commercial. So 70% is commercial, and the other 40% would be bananas. Now, lately, you find every 3 years, because things are not as bright, you find sometimes they do redundancies, persons are sent home. But what we're saying, they pass out a list for redundancies. We're not saying it's not going to help now, because things are not bright. Maybe you don't have work for 50 workers. You probably need to downsize. We're saying the downsizing is usually just subordinate staff. You still have, eventually you'll have a team of managers and you have no staff. But we're also saying one of the things is we're not going down without a fight. Because if you do not have a next plan, if you do not have what's going to happen next year you'll be sending people home again.
Meanwhile, the union says it is working diligently with the company to determine the best way forward on this matter.
The workers accompanied union officials to the meeting this morning because we really wanted to draw management's attention to the plight of workers there, and also to bring to the attention of the board members present the various ideas that workers had coming out of the whole situation. Coming out of the meeting, we were really happy in terms of the outcome. It was very cordial. The board members present were very accommodating, and everyone had a chance to speak. The shop stewards represented the workers' interests very well, and coming out of it, everybody was happy as the chairman was able to address the staff body present.
That was NWU Deputy President General Solis Myers. In other news, Prime Minister Alan Chastanet is fresh from a regional heads of government meeting in Port of Spain, Trinidad. He says a regional effort is afoot to help tackle crime and regional security, but also with special emphasis on issues right here in St. Lucia. Rochelle Gonzalez tells us more.
Prime Minister Alan Chastanet has returned from the 19th special meeting of the Conference of CARICOM Heads of Governments in Trinidad with a whole new outlook on the way forward in crime fighting. The meeting was hosted by Trinidadian Prime Minister Keith Rowley, who is the lead Prime Minister for security in the region, and was attended by 5 heads of government. The meeting was also attended by representatives of all CARICOM countries. Chastanet said the main purpose of the meeting was to hold discussions on how the attending countries are planning on creating a stronger regional security force. St. Lucia, he said, is in full support of the initiative.
And the critical thing here is not why we have to do it. It's not how we're supposed to do it, but where we're going to get the resources to do it. St. Lucia's position is that we support the idea of utilizing part of our airport tax in our case and assigning it specifically to fund our regional organizations. So if we were to visualize that regional entity, it would be like the FBI or M5 that would be managing security, being able to oversee what's taking place in the individual countries and best practices. Certainly gives our policemen a place to go. So after they come through the ranks, the opportunity for them to be part of regional force.
With such high hopes for the initiative, the PM was asked what it means for St. Lucia in terms of solving as well as curbing crime. He said the initiative is a necessity in numerous ways, including sharing of statistics, continuous review of processes, and for the sake of having an independent and unbiased body to investigate police officers involved in crime. The bigger issue, he said, however, is a lot deeper.
There is no one solution to the problem that we have. It is a multifaceted and complex issue in crime. And when I said when I was in opposition that we were going to deal with it, is that if you look at, and we're going to be fair to this government in terms of what we've been attempting to be able to achieve here, is we're tackling it at every level. So, number one, that you must be able to get the intelligence and the evidence that you can go to court and get a conviction quickly without depending always on testimonies and witnesses. Very problematic in this environment because it's so small, right? So when you have electronic information and you have DNA testing, that now you can go to the courts and give irrefutable evidence that this was the person that committed the crime.
Chasney said there are a couple of aspects driving the movement.
As we're opening up the Caribbean to more freedom of movement to people, it means that we're going to have to do a better job of sharing our databases in terms of who's traveling and who everyone is. And imagine if you can, if we do get the fast or a ferry service and we are now transporting vehicles, it means that our transportation department databases also must be fully integrated on a regional basis. And certainly with regards to any exogenous impacts to the region, we have obviously the Venezuela situation. The world is changing very fast and there is a constant fear and threat of terrorism, and therefore it is important that this region do what it can in order to be able to protect itself and to have a more coordinated approach towards security.
The meeting culminated on Friday the 3rd of May. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I'm Rochelle Gonzalez.
Thank you, Rochelle. Considered an old world disease, cases of measles have been increased globally amidst the advent of anti-vaxxers. St. Lucia has been measles-free since 1990, and Ministry of Health officials, taking a cue from the most recent scare of measles on board the Free Winds vessel docked at the port of entry on island, says efforts are being increased to provide vaccinations for those who are without that level of protection. Solange Alfred reports.
The infectious viral disease causing fever and rashes on skin has been the high point of much conversation following the confirmed case of measles on board a ship recently docked in St. Lucia. Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Merlene Fredericks, having quarantined and provided the ship's doctor with vaccination, says the focus has shifted with the departure of the ship.
Now that the ship is gone, we thought that it's important for us to shift the focus to our current risk in St. Lucia right now. Worldwide, there has been a resurgence of measles, and you will hear a bit more about measles, what the type of disease that it is, its epidemiology, etc., from Dr. Fassois in a while. So we are at risk for contracting this disease. St. Lucia has been measles-free since 1990, and it's largely because we had a very high immunization rate, and so our population was able to be protected from this disease. But we know that globally there's a reversing trend, and in particular when it comes to measles, persons are making a decision not to immunize their children, or not to take the vaccine themselves. And as such, we are seeing a resurgence of these diseases.
Providing an in-depth report of measles was acting national epidemiologist Dr. Michelle Fassois. She says the virus has the ability to last 2 hours in the air after exposure from an individual present with measles. Fassois went on to explain the surveillance system in place to control any threat of measles present in St. Lucia.
One of the things we do is called syndromic surveillance, which is where we monitor not the disease itself, but groups of disease based on their presentation. So we monitor what is called fever and rash. So there are a whole set of diseases or illnesses which can cause fever and rash, and that is monitored. And every case of fever and rash, which is how, like I said, measles would present, these warrant an investigation to find out what the cause is, and we interview the patient, whoever is presenting. So it sets in place a whole chain reaction when an individual presents with fever and rash.
In addition, Fassois says the surveillance system also includes a regional outbreak team hosted in 8 regions throughout St. Lucia, and an informal system where individuals can call in when a threat is identified. Likewise, Medical Officer of Health Dr. Sharon Belmar says the island's preparedness to deal with the threat of measles was recently ramped up through training and sensitization workshops for medical personnel.
Given that our last diagnosed case of measles was in 1990, we had to ensure that we strengthen all of our healthcare workers and the teams to ensure early diagnosis and management of measles on island. So the Ministry of Health and Wellness, we held training sensitization both through the public sector and the private sector, all levels of healthcare workers, including physicians, nurses, our pharmacists, our health educators, our nutritionists, our environmental health officers, to ensure that persons who may not during their clinical experience had seen a case of measles, to ensure that they could diagnose it early and to ensure the necessary was done to reduce the possible impact or spread of such a disease.
Belmar George indicates that a recent survey pushed the Ministry of Health to strengthen its efforts by collaborating with the Ministry of Education to ensure vaccination cards are completed before a child enters school. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
Thank you, Solange. On Thursday, the 2nd of May 2019, Christo Ethan Flormius, a 20-year-old resident of Floraville Canneries, was formally arrested and charged for causing the death of Kadeem Joseph. Kadeem Joseph was stabbed on Monday, the 29th of April at about 6 p.m. on Dick Street, Canneries. He was later pronounced dead on arrival at the Soufriere Hospital. Christo Flormius was escorted to the 1st District Court, where he was remanded in custody until Wednesday, the 19th of June 2019. This is the Hot 7 Nightly News. Still to come, police nab a Grand Riviere man with a gun and ammunition on hand. Fuel prices are up, and this year's Carnival Queen contestants get personal development training and have an informal introduction with their chaperones. That and more coming up after the break.